There was a place in Reno that was geared for women business owners, but they had this gorgeous Victorian home that they turned into a co-working space, and it had like rental rooms. It was beautiful, and when they closed down, I was so sad. But
So Friday, 10:30.
Friday, 10:30 at Mercado's.
closer to me, so you're in the.
Yeah, sure.
No, that's okay. You can say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I want to get cozy.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's actually not that balanced. There we go. Your guns, man.
Hey, I know.
Oh, I didn't know I was gonna be out. I mean, I have my hoodie if you want me to.
No, you're good.
Okay.
You got to get the ladies watching the show too. You know?
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, like Woo! Is he single?
That's what we're down
So,
to.
so the first question is, are you single? That's what everyone wants to know.
No.
All right, sorry.
I'm
Off
not
the
only
table.
married, madly in love.
Oh, that's wonderful. How long have you been married for?
This may be 28 years. And we still hold hands. We
Oh, I
still.
love that.
I mean,
My man.
the communication level is so profound. Like we talk about everything.
Yeah.
And so I count myself. My wife Marie and I talk a lot about how grateful we are.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's amazing. And
That is awesome.
my parents are how many years married now? 40 something
Oh my
now,
gosh.
and they're just
Yeah.
best of friends.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's good. Yeah, she's my best friend. In
Yeah.
addition to being my lover, being my colleague, she's an incredible pianist.
Oh, wow.
So we can talk. We hear music, and we can then like talk deeply about. Did you hear
Yeah.
that one phrase?
I love that. That's wonderful.
Yeah,
That's wonderful.
feel that. All right, well, we're live. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Tucson. Welcome to Coffee with ThreeCo, a podcast focused on sharing the inspirational stories of Tucson's most interesting people and their local businesses, projects, ideas,
Yes.
movements, whatever it is that they're working on here in the city. I'm Jermaine, founder of Empyrean Partners, a small business support organization that believes anyone can monetize their passion.
And my name is Kelsey, and I'm a local Tucson blogger who showcases local businesses. I really focus on places you can spend time with your family, take them out, and really get to know the city.
Yes, and we are here with Enrique.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we're just talking about pronouncing different things.
Sure.
Yes.
When it comes to names, what do you think about the Americanization of different types of names?
I think it's all about the inflection. In other words, if someone's giving it a go, if someone like internally, if they're, they'd make the effort to go Enrique or Enrique or what, if they're like going for it, I'm like, awesome.
Okay.
I'm cool with that.
We were talking
Okay.
last week. My daughter can roll her R's like it's
It took
beautifully,
me forever.
and I can't.
I-
She's
I
like,
can't
Mom,
never.
can you do it for me? I'm like, you're really trying to just
Yes.
stop it.
You actually do some. So you do brain games and brain work and brain health, and we were just talking about. I learned out when I was watching PBS or something where they were talking about the reason it's difficult to go to a different language and speak that language fluently is because the way that your brain learns the language that you're learning, like locks it into how it's going to process language.
Yeah.
So the new languages and words, like although all of us have, because the one guy was saying that we all have these vocal cords in the tongue to make the same sounds, but it's only because of the way we were taught, not like actual ability.
Right.
I think the whole thing was about it's not like a genetic or thing
Correct.
like that. It's like it's a really taught thing that can be untaught.
It's habit formation. It's,
Yes, habit formation,
It's neural
yes.
pathways that are built in a certain way. So, like if you'd asked me, and it's interesting, it either can be a barrier or it can unleash your genius. And so if you'd asked me 25 years ago, do you think you'll ever end up doing anything other than music? I'd have said, no way. I was band director at U of A. That's what I'd studied to do. And I'm still a musician, but my neural pathways, my habit formation was thinking from this one perspective. And then luckily I kept bumping into mentors, mostly informal. And one of them was Dr. Carol Reinhardt, who is a legend here in Tucson and passed away, I believe, in 4 years ago now. And so he kept asking me questions. But basically, back to what you're saying, he kept finding ways to create new neural experiences for me. He didn't word it that way. But he would ask me questions like, when is the learner most engaged? Why and what prompts it? When does the learner or anyone build community? Why? What prompts it? And I kept answering the questions thinking, I have pretty good answers. and he kept, we met twice a month for 14 years. And he kept asking me for the first year, he kept asking the same questions. I thought, oh no, what do I do? He's going senile. He wasn't going senile. I was thinking in a senile manner. And so today I don't define myself by what I do. I used to, and I think a lot of people do, and that's okay. I define myself by how I do, whatever it is I do. And it's liberating.
That's amazing.
That's fire. All right, so who are you and why are you on our podcast?
Because I wanted some Mexicali Arbuckles coffee.
Yes.
At Big Heart Coffee.
Oh,
here.
yeah. Stop in.
I'm a coffee snob. This is really fantastic coffee. I'm here to share and learn. I'm an artist. I'm an educator, entrepreneur, author. I'm a dad to two incredible kids who are now 22 and 26. And yes, I mentored them, but they also mentor me. And I'm a big fan of evolving and transformation. Like I don't recognize my 30-year-old self, and I'm glad I don't. I mean, I was a nice person and a good dad, you know, but I'm glad I don't recognize that version of myself, because it means I'm somewhere else. I'm going somewhere else.
And so growth, I put a post the other day because I reposted it. It's finding someone who educates themselves outside of school is rare. Right? I think I was reading a book on tape or something like that, and I put that out. And I think about that in terms of just life, like being a human being, right?
Okay.
There's church, right? The religious structure that's supposed to teach you how to be a good human being, but that's more like morals, you know, don't kill people and be a good person, right? Then you have school, which teaches you the fundamental mechanics of reality. Here's math, here's science, here's structure, this is what a teacher is, this is what school is, here's your path, right? You learn these things in school. So then we go into what you teach, where we're talking about your ability to be better at thinking, for example,
Right.
is something that I couldn't even talk to
Like
you
how to
say those words,
reimagine.
right? How to reimagine,
Yeah.
how to then get better at reimagining, how to open your mind, how to keep your mind open, how to accept ideas that you disagree with, or rather how to absorb ideas you disagree with without getting emotionally engaged in what's happening.
Oh man, that's big.
Emotional IQ, things like that. Right? So then there's a financial management, something more tangible. Okay. So now with all that being said, looking at how so many of the things like communication, right? Like we have to be able to communicate in order to run this podcast consistently week over week, right? Like that's something that has to happen, right? So Kelsey says, "Hey, I want to have so and so on the podcast," and I'm like, "No, I don't think we should have so and so on the podcast, right?" And she's like, "Well, why not?" I'm like, "I don't know, I don't think we should have them on the podcast." Well, do you know them? No. I was like, "So why don't you want them on the podcast?" Right? So internally, I just think I should invite all the guests, right? I should invite all the guests. But am I saying that? No, I'm saying there's something wrong with her guest. So I don't even know that I'm fighting against, because to me, I'm saying that I don't want you to invite, I don't want that particular guest here. What's really happening is that, no, you don't want to invite anybody because you have a control issue, and that control issue comes from your parents, and your parents are super controlling.
Your inner saboteur.
You know what I mean? All of these little tiny things in all of these human beings. All right. So I say that to say, how do we integrate all of those other, how you be a good human being, into our cultural fabric the same way go to school and get a job is?
Well, that's what I do, and I didn't even know I was doing it, because it's sort of vague, right? It can be vague. What I've been spending a lot of time is, no matter what it is I'm doing, that I build community. But to drill down further to what you're talking about, for me, one of the core areas where you begin is with awareness. Well, awareness of what? And my response is exactly. So the trick here is to make it concrete enough, so it's not just some book on philosophy, right? And that's what we've done with our brain fitness, mind fitness, body fitness, our different, all our intellectual property, our brain games, the PQ, the positive intelligence, and you know, they're concrete strategies. But when you break it down conceptually, which is important to understand, is awareness, and so being aware of our awareness. Now, what does that mean? So what it means to me is a concrete way of describing that is what I call observational literacy. So how well do we observe? Like really observe. Like there are things in this room we all seen, that we are walking into this coffee house we've seen, but have we observed it? There are people in our lives we see every day, but do they really feel felt? Do they know that we see them, right? So to make it real, when my son, who's now 22, when he was 4, if I were to ask him at that age, 3 or 4, hey Nick, do you want to play a game? He'd have been like, yeah, Dad, let's play. He wouldn't have asked me any parameter-based questions as to what I want to play or how we're going to play. When he was 14, I realized that he was not observing as well as he was when he was 3, which is true of almost everyone, with rare exception. So I said to my 14-year-old, hey Nick, you want to play a game? And 14-year-old Nick was like, yeah, okay. What's the game? What's called you and who? Okay, how do you play? Well, I have to ask you a couple questions. Okay. Like, well, you have to observe something you've never really noticed before. What do you mean? Well, we talked about it at home. Yeah, home, school, wherever. And he's like, okay, all right. Well, how do you win? Now, I didn't do that inside. I didn't do that. Now, but a lot of people ask questions that only lead to short-term gains. And how do you win is one of those questions. Right? In my opinion.
What
right?
do you get out of it?
Yeah, what do I get out of it? Now, how we win, that's a better question. But still, there are even better questions. Like, what are we going to learn?
Yeah.
You know?
Time together.
Yeah, what's the journey going to be like? So anyway, we play this game. And he says, what's the second question? I said, well, I can't tell you that. I'd give it away. Okay. So I drop him off at school, 14-year-old Nick. I say, hey, bud, have a great day. Hope you see something new. He gets back into the day in the car. What'd you find that was new? And he says, Dad, I forgot. So I pull one of these. Oh, you forgot. And that's how I talk with my kids. I'm not like their dad all the time, you know. So he says, anything? Because you don't want to disappoint me, I guess. So he looks out the side of the window. He looks out the window, and he says, that rock. We live in a desert. I'm like, dude, that's the best you can do? Like, you said anything. I said, you're right. Awesome job, man. And we kidded back and forth. And then he remembered. He said, what's the second question? Oh, yeah. Who are you? He said, what? Who are you? Nick Feldman. I said, okay. Is that what you're looking for, Dad? I don't know, was it? Oh, Dad, and your existential Yoda-like questions, you know. So we played every once in a while. The game's called You and Who. It's an actual strategy that I use with my business clients, my educational clients, my nonprofits. It's hilarious, and there are a lot of ways to play it. This is just one iteration of it. So he would notice that, like a red folder next to a bunch of yellow manila folder. And we talk, it's probably for bad grades. And who are you, Nick Feldman? New security camera. Oh, well, maybe because of more shootings in schools. I don't know. You know, who are you, Nick Feldman? One day I'm just texting him. He's in the bus. Hey, man, have a great day. Well, actually, I say, create a great day. And I didn't nudge. And he said, Dad, I noticed there's always a yellow Camaro parked in the corner of this street and that street between McDonald's and the Chase Bank. I said, really? That's kind of, what's up with that? And he went on for a while, describing maybe who could own it, who couldn't afford it, whatever. I said, man, way to go. Who are you? Nick Feldman. So then, like 2 or 3 months later, we don't play every day or become, tedious. I'm at home minding my own business. He gets home pretty excited. He comes up to me and says, Dad, I noticed something really cool at school today. Really, what was it? When all my friends are in one group and I ask them a question together, they very quickly agree upon an answer. But when I ask them the same question individually, separate from each other, they have very different things to say. We talked about peer pressure, group dynamics, and I started to say, who are you? He stopped me, interrupted, and said, Dad, if you were to ask me what am I might have more to say. Now inside I'm doing backflips because the learner is co-creating the framework.
Wow.
They're taking the experience, for example, the stuff you learn at school, the stuff you learn whatever they were, and then when you begin to make it your own, then you're playing the game of life. Then you're swimming in deeper waters. So he says, I say, fine, what are you? And my 6'2", 14-year-old at the time says, I'm a carer. I said, a what? He said, like caring? He said, yeah, I like to care for people.
Oh, wow.
I'd never heard him say that before. Next time we played, he said, I'm a striver. Okay, so I have to strive, and you like to care. Okay, that's interesting for me to know. Years later, as in 9 months ago, out of the blue, I said again, want to play the game You and Who? And at first he's like, what? And then he's like, oh, yeah, sure. He reacted like a 4-year-old again, which is good.
He's excited.
Yeah. So he was excited to explore openly without an agenda per se. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, I let out. So I said, I notice that morning light is different than afternoon light. And he said, yeah, I noticed that back when I was like a high school senior, LOL. I'm like, thanks, man. And then he says to me, full circle, he says, what are you?
Oh.
And 2 words popped out of me that I never ever used to describe myself before, because I was just in the moment. And these words have no context, like religiously or anything. They're just like dictionary, just think as dictionary words. So I said, I'm a healer and I'm an awakener. And he's like, cool. So full circle.
Right on.
So that's an example of how we can take a really cool strategy that is conversational, that's not a one-time event. You play it over time,
Yeah.
and you can change it. There are a lot of ways to do it. But that can help. That helped my son, actually. When he tells his story, that 6 months of playing that game every once in a while, and then recently had a real impact on him being aware of who he is, who he wants to be, what his role could be in life, you know, apart from learning how to write and learning how to, you know, count and so forth.
Right. I think one of the quotes I like is, and I thought about it our last podcast, people don't ask questions because they think they already know the answer. And so as we go through the concept that you have to learn how to do something more as a 46-year-old, you know, CEO of a company with a family and kids, and you do, like, what are you talking about? What nothing I need to do or figure out, or there's nothing else. Like, I'm good to go. But you're angry all the time, but you're tense all the time, but you have migraines all the time. Mm-hmm. You know, you have ulcers, and your doctor says it's stress-related. You don't know exactly what's stress-related. It's like all of these non-tangible things that we really, I think, this podcast is one way that many people are doing the exact same thing, which is promote the new way of really raising a human being, like raising, they say it takes a village to raise, but I think a village raises a kid. So the people who your kid are around, exactly what's around. So if you have a kid who has, or rather, you think of a flower, it's the easiest one. You got a flower but no dirt, right? You're gonna get a particular outcome. You got a flower, dirt, no nutrients in the dirt, and there's no water. And there's a flower, and there's water, and there's nutrients, and there's sunlight, and also there's not a whole bunch of competition around, right? You're gonna get a different outcome. And that's how humans are too. And as we're like looking at each person as an individual flower, we don't know like whether they have grass or not. We only know where people are in the present. And back when Andres and I were running the podcast, one thing that we got after episode 4 or 5 was just this admiration for what we were doing, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, you're so amazing, blah, 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 right? So we started talking about how we were getting that and how we were feeling about getting it. Because I'm blessed that I'm going to be a high performer my whole life. So when you're always in that little separate group, you always get treated a little differently. You know, a little nicer. Adults are a little happier that you're around. You get a little more opportunities. A whole bunch of my life is awesome. Like I went to school started by NASA. You know, and I was the first the class to go in. So I was a senior for all 4 years of high school. How does that like such a unique experience? Because you know my mother put me in the Get the Talented program when I was 5, and that just kept going all the way until so. All these, and that's my mother just having awareness and like wanting to push me to do. Oh, he talks a lot, so yeah, he's smart, right? Put him in everything. Put him in everything. It's the environment that we're in is what allows like who I am as a person, like my character wise. I take in information, I run it through my own character, my own brain, and how I do things, and then out pops my behavior or my belief system or the way I view other people in the world, and just an awareness of that. Going back to awareness first.
Yes.
Just an awareness that Jermaine Miller, there's a whole bunch of things that you believe and think and feel about the world and people and all that, and 100% of them can be incorrect because your environment is missing some nutrients or is missing some sunlight or is missing some water or missing something, right? Some book you didn't read, some quote that didn't come. So this is, I think, one of the reasons I love meeting new people. Not I think, I know. Because I'm being fueled by, I mean, we've been in the podcast for like 5 seconds and like, I've already learned a bunch, I'm excited, I'm filled with energy, and I have new ideas bubbling in my head. All from a new conversation that this isn't an educational format. The point isn't to come here and for us to learn about something. It's to have a great conversation, chill, have a good time. And naturally, we're evolving as human beings. And that's something that we should be aware of, that every conversation you have it's either going to evolve you or degrade you, right? One or the other. So, going to the village comment, so when we have individuals who are looking at, because I really don't like the way people talk about the concept of high schoolers or the concept of teenagers or the concept of youth, where it's this one monolith that is a thing, right? Like, no. You have a 14-year-old here whose parents each make $250,000 a year. You have one here whose parent makes $1 million a year, and the other parent is to stay at home. You have, this family here who both parents are guys and they had to deal with, their extremely unique circumstances. You have they're all 14 years old. This one's parents makes $42,000 a year. This one has 2 meth addicts for parents. Like, that's not millennials. That's not teenagers. They all have very unique things that make them want to rebel. Mm-hmm. And the concept of rebelling was, when I was like growing up, I was like, wow, people around me don't know what they're talking about, right? So I kept it to myself because I would be seen as a rebellious person. So I had to be like super careful with how I spoke to people, because I'm an adult and you're a child trumps everything that I'm saying. So as soon as someone got emotional, that's sort of when it went to that kind of dynamic, that shift. That is, and I'm like going on a whole tangent here, I know, but that way of being as an adult is one way that raises horrible adults who go off to be people who suck in the world, who are the people who we try to avoid. The people who I kind of was saying the particular people who are a certain way, is like I just try to stay away from those people. Avoid the negative people, avoid the sucks of energy, the energy vampires. And they don't know most of them don't know they're energy vampires.
Right. They're unaware.
Yeah.
They're the opposite of what we're talking about striving towards, which being unaware can be actually really detrimental. So being aware, and you're a high-performing person in terms of a number of things, but how you observe, you're very observant. Not everyone is, or they think they're observing, when in fact they're just looking, which is different than observing, right? And so it's, and then there's, how do you, the idea of these large buckets that people, these, with a tag, with we're going to name, we're going to, this is for, like you said, the youth, and this is for elders, and why is that? Why do we look at it that way? I mean, I work with people and connect with people. My youngest mentor was a 5-year-old. If you want to hear that story, let me know. And then Carol Reinhardt was 92 and a half years old when he passed, and everything in between. So I don't ever judge, like, am I going to spend time with someone based on which generation they're in? Why would I do that? I'd look at I'm interested in kind of one thing, is what energy footprint are they leaving behind?
Yeah.
If it's a good vibe, then I'm going to hang. I'm going to at least have a conversation.
I've come to figure out finally what people I'm drawn toward and which people I would rather just not be around. And it's taken years of putting up with people in my life that were negative or not suiting who I'm meant to be, and it took me a long time to figure that out, but I finally did.
Good.
We both make the cut, so
Right, we made the
Nice.
cut.
Yes.
I love it. I love it.
Yes. Yeah. So what was your criteria? What was did you have a straw that broke the camel's back?
Yeah. I had a friend when we first moved here, and it was just a toxic relationship, and she ended up didn't want to talk to me anymore, and I was like, we're not in high school anymore, like, we're adults, we need to act like it. And I just finally discovered what toxic traits don't resonate with me, and it's like an automatic, like, I can sense that with someone, and if I feel that, I'm out. I'm like, nope, I can't do it.
So what are the toxic traits that you do vibe with?
I don't know if there are any toxic traits that I vibe with, but I don't know. I don't know. I guess it's, especially being a mom and wanting to be so close to mom groups, to find that community, and realizing that there are a lot of moms out there that are very negative, and it makes me feel like a lesser mom, or that I'm doing something wrong, where we should be lifting each other up. And I mean, especially us as women, we should be lifting each other up. We go through so much as mothers, and it's just, why waste your energy on being nasty to someone when you could get together and have a mimosa at 10 a.m. in the morning? You know, we're all friends here, okay? We need to.
I like it.
So yeah, I don't know. It just took years of not putting myself first, and just kind of accepting that behavior as a normal and how it should be, and then finally breaking free of that and being like, I deserve better.
There you go.
You know. So.
You're talking about, what I hear there is like you became more aware of like being not just mindful, but you were working on the skills of the mind.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And it relates to being aware, and then big questions like how do we then get what I always ask questions like, well, what prefaces that? Like what prefaces academic learning? What a desire to learn.
Yeah.
Okay, well, how do you do that?
Absolutely.
So what prefaces the ability, like some people apparently have a much more difficult time choosing to be more open, let's say, choosing to embrace new ideas, like they only want certain ideas.
Right.
And so that's also an act of their mind. So what prefaces, I mean, that's kind of the area I work in, but so I geek out over, okay, back it up, what's at the foundational, universal level, which I think is one of the reasons why I end up working in so many industries. I see it all as all the same industry. It's, it's the human race. Right? So that's my industry. Now, when I'm in front of a sales group, or when I'm working with a corporation or something, or a nonprofit, whatever it is, or a school, I do word it a little differently, because I have to meet them where they're at, as to not confuse them.
Yes.
But in my interfacing stuff, I don't see it in silos. Like I love what you said there about, well, all 14-year-olds are the same. No, they're not, because they all have different realities.
Precisely. And I energy footprint, I got that out there. And when you said energy footprint, I thought you were talking about carbon. That's what I thought, carbon footprint. But you're talking about the energy that you give off. I was like, man, that's really, really awesome. And then awareness first. So I am forming my own sort of philosophy of belief around the martial arts, right? And my first tag is awareness first. Everything comes from awareness first. So in the fight game, I have this great story, because it's a funny story, because every time I remember it, I kind of can feel what happened. So I'm fighting at my karate gym, and I'm super fast. I'm just fast. It's me and this other dude who are super fast. We're just faster than everybody. So we love fighting each other, but we're really fast to everyone else, right? So, but I'm not that skilled, right? I'm just fast. I can hit you, and I can move really fast. I got a lot of energy, as you can see, right? That's my talent. That's my industry, is just having a lot of energy. And no matter what I do, I'm just going to give it a whole lot of energy, and we'll figure out everything else later. So I would throw my right cross, and then when I came back, I would leave my hand high, right? Because I don't before, right? So I'm throwing that cross. And the guy was a professional boxer, champion boxer, right? He goes, hey man, I'm aware that I leave my side. This is a thing that I do, but this is the first time he's told me yada yada. So we fight. And he just gives me like a little jab there. It's like, I start hitting him a bunch, and I start getting too amped up, and my arms go up, and he gives me a crack in my ribs. Oh, I can feel it right now. So, and I learned how I can like breathe, and like I learned what I can take too. So I got hit, and it's like, and I felt it, and he goes, I know you feel that. I told you can put your hands down. I never forgot the lesson. The other 2 times he told me, I was like, okay, cool, a little tap there, but boom, it's happening now. Boom, I have this physical thing that's reminding me, keep your arm down, like you have that awareness, that snap.
He could have had you write that out. That would have helped. He could have just kept telling you with words. That can help. But what he was using, the technical educational term, it's a cool term, that was embodied learning. So you learn it by becoming it. When you do that, retention rate starts at 90%.
Wow.
So like when we work with, the other thing, I started a foundation in 2000. We work with children and families, and we use embodied learning all the time. So not with karate stuff, but like we'll have them, for example, I'll say, all right, it's usually about 20 little 4 and 5 year olds.
Mm.
And I'll say, okay, show me the word happy with your body. And they all do something like, and some are like, some are like, and it's all their version of happy. It doesn't have to look the same. But then it's like, okay, great, empty body. Now show me excited. And they know that's bigger than happy, right? Okay, empty body. And then I'll use a word they don't know, or some may not know, some may, but show me exuberant.
Ooh.
Right? So, like, that's one of the best ways. Embodiment is, whether it's a 4-year-old or whether it's an adult of any age, we remember, So that's why the brain games you've seen me do, those are really helpful, especially with adult groups, because adults, like we talked about in the beginning today, a lot of adults forget that at age whatever, they should be asking more questions. They should be seeking better questions, not seeking better answers.
Now, when you say brain games, do you work with people that deal with Alzheimer's and dementia? Okay.
Yeah, so it started with, in 2001, I'm a conductor. I conduct orchestras and bands, and so now as a guest conductor. I used to do that as a living. So I took these motions of a conductor, where one hand is doing something different, and then it switches, you go back, and it's kind of ambidextrous work, and so it's great work for the brain. So I took those and created brain games, movements that cross the middle of the line with music, in time with music, for, at first, young kids. And as I was playing them, I would work with parents too, and then I saw parents doing it. And then their feedback was, hey, this really feels good, they're laughing, they liked it. So then I started doing, back then, my first research into brain work. And so today, elders with dementia or memory care in general, in the business world, it's all about, they want more productivity, better decision making. Well, you need a better brain for that. And in the end, I realized through all the research and talking to some brilliant researchers that in order to have the mental fitness, the mental strength to think openly, to embrace new perspectives, to connect, to be willing to jump on a podcast with no agenda and go, let's jam, right? To be willing to do that and get better at it, you have to build the muscle of the brain, which is different than the mind. And specifically, you have to build the prefrontal cortex and the right side of the brain. So another area that I geek out on, but it's so much fun to find ways to help people thrive again, like a child.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between the brain and the mind?
That is a great question. The difference between the brain and mind. Okay, so the brain is a physical muscle. The mind, if we start talking about, no matter who we would talk to, if someone were to ask, where does the mind reside? No one has a clear answer. And I'm totally cool with that. Like I embrace the unknown. I used to be, like most people, kind of uncomfortable with uncertainty and unknown. That's where I thrive most, me personally. As a musician, when I'm a classically trained musician, here's a metaphor, but what I perform today, before the pandemic, I was at Crooked Tooth Brewing Company about once a month with a group called ThreeCo.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so it's all like, it's a combination of flamenco, jazz, tango, rock.
Oh,
It's
that
really,
sounds amazing.
really gritty, and it's really, very sensual music, and it's almost all, there's a basic structure, but in terms of exactly what you're gonna play, very improvisational. I would have been scared to death in 1992 to do that when I was a professor of music at the U of A. But that's what I prefer now. So so the unknown, the fact that we don't really know where the mind resides, it's a philosophical discussion. And it's a great conversation over mimosa or glass of wine or, whatever you're drinking. And that's cool. Whereas the brain, we know it resides. We do know this, that when we build up the prefrontal cortex in the right side of the brain, that's the newer brain as opposed to the limbic system and the old lizard brain, the one that freaks out and doesn't know how to deal with adversity. When we work the brain in certain ways, we then can get to a different level of mind, a fitness of mind. And the thing that I've added recently to my box of strategies and things I love to work and help people with is called PQ, which is positive intelligence, which is similar to emotional intelligence, but different. And it's So I all day long I'm doing what I call PQ reps. It's like, you're working out your body. I'm working out my mind throughout the day. So I don't need like I love having a quiet space to do meditation and yoga. I'm into yoga. But PQ reps I do while I'm driving, eyes open, of course. I was doing it just a moment ago. I was actually doing this right here I was doing that I wanted to kind of click my mind in a little deeper. I want to make sure I was really focused. And so we use our senses. It has to do with using our senses. It's meditative in nature. So there are very concrete strategies to help really anyone with a brain who wants to build that brain and build their mind and improve in whatever area they're jamming.
Yeah, so that's what I wanted to get to. So now what's the benefits? Now I use your brain games, I use PQ techniques. How do I see like the benefits of my brain getting stronger? I can see these guys getting bigger.
Yeah.
I mean, not really.
That's a great question. So it's a lot like the difference between real nutrition as medicine, specifically, and taking pharmaceuticals as medicine. And I'm not judging anyone who does. We all get to choose. I happen to be med-free. I'm 54, and I don't take any medication. Now, I do supplement. I'm very picky with what I put in my body. 14 years ago, to be clear, again, I'm not judging. 14 years ago, I was a jack-in-the-box Taco Bell guy, and I weighed 310 pounds. And I'm still not done, So we're all on our journey. It's all good. But the metaphor with nutrition is thus, that if I want to have longevity and a quality of life, then I'm going to start putting things in my smoothies like kale, like fresh ginger and fresh turmeric, which I do, and hemp seed for all the amino acids, and maybe some spirulina, and it can still taste great. There are ways to do it, right? But I won't see that change for a while.
Yeah.
Like I didn't go from 310 to where I'm at now. It's been a 14-year journey. But my doctor's like, your arterial I have the cardio, basically, cardio health, not necessarily stamina, but I have the cardio health of about a 28-year-old.
That's incredible.
Right? And I can feel it. My neurological health, I know how to lower that. Pardon me, that sounded awful. I know how to become younger neurologically of age. I can't change the number, and I don't care to change the number. 54, that's the number. So when it comes to the how soon will you see, for some people it takes a while. Other people it's very quick. It just depends where they're starting from. Like not everyone has the same start line. Like if you had a really positive childhood and you have a lot of self-confidence already and your belief level is high, you can actually. I've had people in about a month. We had one client recently say that their wife told them this has been the happiest 30 days of our marriage, and they've been married over 20 years.
Wow.
Because they became more aware. Back to that again. They become aware of things. They start, and it's little nudges. It's like health, right? It's little nudges, little things you add to your diet or take away, right? And same thing with whether it's brain or mind. It's the little nudges we add, right? And so it's really, man, it's really cool. It's I would tell you the benefits are profound because it impacts everything in your life. It impacts every conversation. It impacts how you think. It impacts your desire to be a better you.
And I think we were talking about environment before, right? There was this conversation. Yeah, environment. Okay.
Yeah. I hope so. I think so.
What you're saying is we cultivate an environment in which we grow people initially to be that way, where so much of what you're doing in these realms are with adults who are reversing what they were already. They were grown to get out this callous way of thinking that doesn't serve them or the people around them. Like 70% of people hate their jobs. So many people wish they didn't do so many things that they did, but make excuses for it. I think one of the main things is college, where there's so many benefits to college, but you cannot say go to college and then figure it out, because college is a set structure with set outcomes. So if you want to be an accountant, you go to college. If you want to figure it out, you gotta do something else. Maybe just make money
Right.
for a while and
Yeah.
figure it out.
There are many ways.
Right, but investing, once again, this is also an option, right, that people have. So now, rather than saying, hey, college is the route, say college is a route if you want these particular outcomes. But guess what? If you're an artist and you have these particular outcomes, college is for you, not trade school is for you, you know, going to just do your art is for you. You should probably go find an artisan to work under, you know, something like that.
Or if you're an
So
entrepreneur, you can,
or go be an entrepreneur.
You can hang with people,
Right.
you can put some money in, little bit, and you know, whatever, a percentage in crypto, learn about that. You can do some other stuff that's not
Yes.
crypto. You can
Yes.
figure that out. You can find an informal internship somewhere.
Yes.
You can connect with whoever it is or whatever entity. There are a lot of answers.
Yes,
Yeah.
options, and say, here are all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pick one. Guess what? Pick 5. Pick 7. You know, pick 10 at the same time. Pick 2 at the same time. Start some, do it for 2 years, and then do something else for 3 years, and then go back to the thing you did for 2 years. 'Cause that was better. Like, just go. There's a long railroad, and I feel like I don't feel like the culture says at this age you do this, and at this age you do this, and at this age you do this. And so often I hear it coming back to me, I am this age, therefore I'm disappointed that I didn't do X, Y, Z,
Yeah.
whatever it was. It's like, well, you didn't do it, so it doesn't matter what age you are, you didn't do it. Just,
Perspective is everything. Like
Yes.
based on someone's belief of how long they're going to live, no one's going to live forever. But based on that perception, or the perspective of, well, like let's say there are a bunch of 54-year-olds in this room, right? There would be some who would say, oh man, I probably got 10 years left. Why? Because maybe their dad or mom passed away in their 70s, right? Or
Yeah.
60s.
Yeah.
But then others, no, you know, mine lived to about 90 or 100. And then you have the crazies, right? Like me, who read books like Lifespan by David Siegler, who, you know, I understand, and I like sugar. Who doesn't like sugar? But I now understand that it's genetic warfare at the cellular level. So I do have it, but it's truly a treat. Now I used to define treat as Thursday through Sunday. You know, so I don't do that anymore, right? But yeah, I did. And so, no, but like, so perspective is an amazing thing. Whether it's realizing that there are multiple avenues towards how you live your life, and including how long and how well, what quality of life you can live.
Yes.
And our bodies actually were meant to go to about 140, 150. But if someone doesn't believe that, then it's a moot point. Or, like some people may say, you know, and what I'm about to say would be coming from someone else that maybe has parents who got to 75 and they were already in really bad shape. Who wants that, right?
Right.
So-
I hear that one consistently.
So some people might say, 104, that sounds like a living, you know what, I don't want to do that.
I don't want to be in a wheelchair in critical.
But I'm not,
Yeah.
and I know 102-year-olds who they guess that they're in their late 60s. I know a woman, she's in her mid-80s. She's a professional, she's a lifter, she lifts weight.
Oh, wow.
She has cut abs.
Mhm.
People guess that she's in her 50s, or young 50s.
We don't get old because we stop doing things. We don't stop doing things because we get old. We get old because we stop doing
Yeah.
things.
That's right.
So people will tell themselves that I'm this age now, therefore I can't run and I
Right.
can't work out because my bones are going to deteriorate. And what
Right.
happens? Their bones deteriorate, and they're not working out. So, and one thing I get my whole life, my mentor gets this as well because he's, I think he's like 53, 54, something like that. Super fit. He's my abs, right? Works out all the time. He's like, yeah, his whole life, that's what he got. Like when you get this age, because I was telling him, I was explaining how. When I talk about fitness, I believe it's extremely important to entrepreneurship. Your mind is a muscle, just like your arms are a muscle, your legs are a muscle. You got to do a lot of standing and sitting and thinking. There's a lot of energy that you have to pursue. So anyways, you got to get your physical body right. And when I started working out when I was from 7th grade to 8th grade. From 8th grade to 9th grade, because I saw the way this girl looked at my friend who was in a tank top, right? Like, I was like, all girls look at me like that. Kind of looked at myself and I was like, I started working out. That night I started working out.
It's awesome.
Yeah, that night. I forgot why I was telling that story. But anyways, you have to wrap up the podcast. I completely forgot what I started talking
That's
about.
okay.
But yeah, thank you so much. Is there anything you have?
Yeah. If you want to learn more about what I do, you can find me at globallearning.foundation.
Okay.
Cool.
So it's a nonprofit that began in 2000. We have served over 135,000 children and families. So it's a globallearning.foundation. If you want to find me on LinkedIn, which I'm very active there, Enrique Hank, I'll give you that story later, Feldman, Enrique Hank Feldman. And then if you're interested in the brain stuff, the best place to go right now, we're about to put a new landing page out, but where you'd want to go right now would be one of two places, either Enrique C, like cat, EnriqueCFeldman.com, and the other one may sound completely out there, is samtheant.com, which are a set of bilingual children's books that my daughter and I have been co-authoring for a number of years.
Wow.
And the brain games to kind of live in both places, so we're cleaning that up
Oh, cool.
in terms of
Okay.
branding.
Right on.
But if anyone ever has questions about brain fitness or mental health and mental fitness, very connected, I'd love to chat with anyone. So.
Right on. All right, thank you. Anything?
Right. No, that was wonderful.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us on Anchor. Thank you for joining us on Facebook Live. We'll see you all next time. Make sure you come out to Big Heart Coffee.
Oh yeah, Big Heart Coffee.
Yes, delicious. I had hot chocolate with oat milk, 2 shots of espresso. It's one of my favorite drinks
I
now.
had Mexicali, the brand by Arbuckles. Very much like a little cinnamon coffee chocolate thing going on.
Yes, beans roasted in cinnamon and chocolate.
Man.
Amazing. You don't need
Amazing.
sugar. It's great.
Yes.
What did you
Yeah.
have?
I had a lavender oat milk latte.
Ooh.
It's my favorite.
I love lavender.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We'll come in and try all 3. Thank you so much for joining us again. Later, Tucson.
Peace.
Bye.
All right, that was 44 minutes. That was the closest to what we want the podcast to be. So it's fantastic.
So the reason I asked about dementia is my mother